Rollins, considered one of the party's rising stars, is here. You're watching The Issue Is.
Ken Calvert got exactly what he's wanted for 30 years. The Supreme Court took away a woman's right to an abortion, paving the way for a national abortion ban.
That is the latest ad for Will Rollins, the Democrats' candidate in California's 41st district. He's trying to unseat Republican Ken Calvert in what could be one of the closest races in the country. Calvert was first elected to Congress in 1992. For years, he's represented the western ridge of Riverside County, which has been reliably Republican. But this year, due to redistricting, the 41st district now includes Palm Springs and a whole lot more Democrats. Will Rollins, welcome to The Issue Is for the first time. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being here in studio. We've extended this invitation to Ken Calvert, and he has not accepted it. We invited him to a debate. He did not accept it. We hope that he'll join us soon, but it's great to hear your perspective. Ken Calvert, pretty known quantity, having been around for so long. You pretty fresh for a lot of people that are watching us. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what makes you want to do this job.
Sure. So I was a federal prosecutor here in the Central District of California for the last 5 years, specialized in counterterrorism and counterintelligence cases. Got into this race because I believe my opponent's a threat to our democracy. Originally wanted to work in national security because of September 11th, junior in high school. When that happened, walked into my first class of the day, saw the Twin Towers collapse on TV, thought about enlisting in the military. But at the time, closeted gay kid, hadn't told a soul, not my friends, not my family, was scared of being outed. So wanted to find a different path into national security. Went to Dartmouth, took Arabic, really sucked at Arabic. Was not going to be a CIA linguist, as I had hoped at one point. Ended up getting into law school, clerked for a couple of judges, and then was fortunate enough to get hired at the Justice Department and specialize in national security. And loved that job, but over the last 5 years, huge rise in the threats from domestic extremism to hate crimes to January 6th. And having my opponent vote to decertify the election and then call for dropping charges, even after it became clear that 5 police officers had died as a result of that attack, is what got me into this race, because I didn't want to look back on my life and say that I didn't step up when the country needed to challenge people like this.
And you think about how much the country has changed since 2001, just on the issue of gay rights, right? We've now had an openly gay presidential candidate who's succeeded, and you're running as an openly gay man. We've got a picture of your partner, Paolo, and congratulations on that relationship. How do you see LGBTQ issues affecting this race? Because we've got this very interesting situation where Palm Springs, which is one of the gayest cities in the entire country, now gets added into this very red district, and now could be the difference between you going to Congress or Ken Calvert going to Congress.
Yeah, and I mean, I do have to give a shout out to Paolo, because he's stayed with me for 11 years, even though the only thing I can cook is microwave popcorn. So would not be in this race without...
That's about as much as I can cook as well, yeah.
I'm a bad cook. But look, I mean, it is going to matter, because Palm Springs, for the first time in Calvert's history in office, is now part of his congressional district. And this is somebody who voted against the Matthew Shepard hate crimes bill, which is just designed to give law enforcement the tools to track down people who are targeting gay kids who are victims of hate crimes. Voted against repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell to prevent people like me from serving in the U.S. military. And just last year voted to allow landlords to kick out tenants because they're gay, voted to allow employers to fire people for being gay. And our community is not going to put up with that. And I think the country really does best when we all succeed based on merit. And that's what I'm about.
You know, Clarence Thomas, in overturning abortion rights, basically suggested that gay marriage could be next, that he would support overturning that. None of the other justices agreed with him, at least in paper. Do you think that's a real threat?
Yeah, I think we should take them at their word. And look, that concurrence provides a roadmap for exactly where the Supreme Court would go. It's where Republican electeds like Calvert have said they want to take the country for the last 30 years. He's somebody who joined the lawsuit to overturn Roe, who's had some pretty radical positions on that issue over the years. And I really see the LGBT community's fight as bound up with women's fight for freedom and reproductive equality.
Although it's interesting, just this year he voted in favor of same-sex marriage now that Palm Springs, of course, is going to be part of his congressional district. Let's talk about another big issue right now, which is abortion, which Democrats across the country are talking about. I asked Ronna McDaniel in our last segment, the chair of the Republican National Committee, about Lindsey Graham's recent suggestion that there should be a national abortion ban at 15 weeks. Here's how she answered me. Should we take him at his word?
I think California has their law set.
Wouldn't a national ban go above the state? Do you support the idea of a 15-week ban?
That's not up to the RNC. That's up to the individual voters.
So clearly she didn't really want to talk about that issue. What do you make of what she said there? And how real a threat is that actually in California, where clearly there are so many protections in place for a woman's right to choose?
Well, it's disingenuous of her to respond like that because federal law means that it applies nationally, means that it supersedes state law, means that even if California passes a constitutional amendment, if Republicans take control of Congress and the White House, they can pass a national ban. And so, look, I worked in law enforcement, and I think that what the Republican Party needs to be telling voters is how are the mechanics of what they are proposing actually going to work? Are they going to send in FBI agents to search doctors' offices? Are they going to have federal agents stop women at state lines who cross into another territory because they want to seek reproductive health care? These are legit questions that every voter should be asking as we head towards November 8th.
Of course, Republicans say the big issue isn't really abortion rights, it's inflation and the cost of everything going up. Gas prices going up again this week after dropping for so many weeks in a row. What do you say to the criticism that all of the Democratic spending it contributed to inflation and is making everything more expensive for everybody?
I think Republicans should be honest about the causes of inflation. And in my district, I've got a guy who claims that he's going to expand energy production and that he's going to repeal the state gas tax, over which he has absolutely no power whatsoever. And so, look, inflation is a problem. Democrats should lean in to responsibly solving it with intellectually honest solutions. And I think that means like making our markets more competitive. When you have Shell post $9 billion in record quarterly profit with 20% profit margins, and they're still able to charge us $6 a gallon at the tank, that's because only a handful of massive oil and gas corporations dominate the market. And so if you try to make the markets a little bit more competitive and give people room to actually have to cut into those margins, consumers and customers are going to see a benefit.
Another big issue, especially that conservatives point to, is what's happening at the border. We see 2 million people crossing the border. Vice President Harris saying that the border is secure. You look at the images from there, clearly it's not. What do we do about that?
Look, I worked in counterterrorism. I believe the country needs secure borders. We also need a long-term fix to a broken immigration system, and you don't fix that by rounding people up and sending them to Martha's Vineyard on a jet with taxpayer money. What we need is a long-term fix which actually enables asylum claims to be processed in a timely fashion, Israeli anti-tunneling technology to actually make the border secure, an investment of smart resources in a targeted way that both makes the border protected but also provides a humane path to citizenship for people who've been here their entire lives, who were brought here as kids.
Up next, we're going to have more photo of a young Will Rollins working for then California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, a Republican. Now, Rollins is a Democratic candidate for Congress in one of California's closest races. Will Rollins is back with us. We have had Governor Schwarzenegger as one of our most frequent guests here on the show. He's a character. His team has actually raved about you. And I'm wondering what lessons you learned from him, and especially as a young Democrat working for a Republican in California.
Yes, so he gave me my first job out of college, and I was a Democrat, but he was obviously a Republican governor, and really respected his willingness to reach across the aisle and have a staff that often disagreed with each other in a way that was actually fun, and people had a sense of humor. And I think he knew that he got good advice from those kinds of constructive disagreements from people on the left and the right. And he also had a vision for America that was optimistic and hopeful that he always talked about. And it was great being a young staff member traveling with him around the country and the world, even in some cases, and seeing people respond to his vision for California and America. He had a really unique way to talk about it.
Yeah, and there is nobody like him. And it is crazy to see the way people react to him, too, because he is the Terminator at the end of the day. So,
Exactly.
we play a game on this show called Personal Issues. This is 30 seconds to get to know you a little bit better, some of your favorites, and we put 30 seconds up on the clock. Hopefully we get ready to go. Here we go. What is your favorite TV show?
Elite on Netflix. Just devoured that. All Spanish subtitles.
Wow, good for you. Favorite movie of all time?
Godfather.
Good choice. What's your favorite way to relax?
Cocktail at the pool.
Good. All right. Favorite book?
1984.
My favorite book. Who's your favorite Republican?
Schwarzenegger, hands down.
Okay, we kind of gave
pandering to the old boss right there.
And who is your role model?
My parents.
Why is that?
My dad was a journalist. Mom was a public defender. Taught me why America is great and why we all need to fight to keep our rule of law and protect our democracy.
Will Rollins, thank you so much for being on The Issue Is. We hope you'll come back. Really appreciate the perspective. And Ken Calvert, we'd love to hear from you as well. This is an important conversation, and it's important to hear from our potential leaders. We'll be back to wrap things up right after this.